You know, it's no secret that things are very different now than they were 40 years ago. The 70s and 80s, what I call my heyday, um, I'd say, 77 to 86 were, kind of my youth and my fun and cutting loose and, all the fun things you do when you're in your teens and early 20s. But there are things that have changed drastically. And I don't know that it's for the better. I don't know that it's for the worse. I don't want to come across as judgmental because I know it probably people that are 25 now, when they're 60 something, are going to say, well, it was better back then. Maybe. I don't know. I know my kids used to ask me all the time, were the 80s that great? I'm like, yeah, the 80s were that freaking great. The late 70s were pretty awesome too. And a lot of young people are into the whole vibe of the 70s and 80s, the music, the fashions. And I'm sure some of you that are older probably think the same thing about the 60s. But I also feel like we've lost something. I feel like we've become, by the way, welcome back, välkommen tillbaka, tack för sist. Sorry, I forgot. Thank you for subscribing, commenting, liking. Dig it. Thank you very much. We've gotten to be there's an author that I listen to on podcasts, and I can't remember his name because I would give him credit, but he wrote a book. I think it was called The Permission Society. And I feel like that's what we've become. Things have just so many more rules now than when I was, say, 16 to 26. And I don't know that it's for the better. Just take, for example, seatbelts. And this is not a video about seatbelts, but when I was young, nobody wore seatbelts. Nobody wore seatbelts. A lot of cars didn't even have seatbelts. I wear a seatbelt pretty much everywhere I go now. I've just gotten used to it. But, if you ever listen to statistics about that, they'll say that almost half of people that die in car accidents weren't wearing a seatbelt. Well, you do understand that means that more than half did have a seatbelt on. I have two brothers that were in a bad car accident in probably the mid 80s. The car flipped, rolled several times. I mean, it was bad. And they were both ejected from the car. Neither was wearing a seatbelt. The first responders all said that they likely would have died if they had seatbelts on. I'm not against seatbelts. I'm against being told what to do like you're a child. Motorcycle helmets. Motorcycle helmets, I think, are a good thing. I rarely wear one when I ride, and probably should, but I'm not saying it's a good choice. I'm just saying it should be my choice. Somebody shouldn't be telling me things that I just take as personal freedoms. There were a lot of you will get this reference. I think a lot of you that watch are probably in my similar age group. I know there's some younger people watching too, and that's cool. A few of you have commented, and I totally dig it. Welcome. In fact, I love getting opinions that are different than mine. I'm not threatened by other people's opinions or views. So I love hearing your comments, even if you disagree with me. If you're respectful about it, I'll be respectful back. But I grew up in a little farm town in Alberta, Canada. Pickup trucks were everywhere. And you know what every single pickup truck had? Probably a lot of you are ahead of me. A gun rack in the back window. Not just a gun rack in the back window, guns in the gun racks. All the time. Trucks unlocked. Nobody ever stole one that I ever knew of. Nobody ever got shot by a gun. Never. Nobody ever threatened anybody. It was for target shooting and hunting. That was it. And they thought it looked cool. I didn't have a pickup. I had a car, so I obviously didn't have a gun rack in the back window of my car. But I think part of it was kind of a cool look. but it just was not an issue. Can you imagine right now, like where I am in Northern California, if you drove around in a pickup truck with your girl sitting right next to you, not across in the, in the other seat, and a gun rack with rifles in your back window, you would have the SWAT on you. You'd get pulled over so fast. There'd be 500 calls to 911. Even where I live, which is much more laid back, rural, farm areas, you don't hardly ever see it. I do see trucks with gun racks in them, but it's rare that you see one. Most of the time when you see it, it's out like where we go camping out in the wilderness. You'll see a pickup truck drive by. It's not on a highway. It's just on some back dirt road. But that's just gone away. It's just considered unacceptable now. And like I said, there were never any issues. We didn't have any problems. But something has changed in society where that's even considered a big problem now, because I'm sure here in California in the 70s, I'm sure there were lots of pickups driving around with gun racks. And this, like I said, this is not about seatbelts or motorcycle helmets or gun racks. It's about just feeling like freedoms are going away. And I've said I'm not going to go down political paths on this channel. And I don't think I need to say that. I feel like personal freedoms get taken away. Ronald Reagan had whether you're Democrat or Republican, I don't care. I could quote lots of presidents from both parties that I love quotes from. This is just particularly Ronald Reagan said, "We're never more than one generation away from losing our freedom." And it's absolutely true. And I don't care who's the president. I don't care who's the Senate, the Congress. It's about us, we live in a free country, and I love it. And I support it 100%. And I think the system that's been set up is about the best you can do. And it's far from perfect. There's all kinds of flaws. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about everybody. I've said this before. I've started, and I'm not necessarily proud of this, but I started kind of checking out of the anything to do with politics or politicians, because whether it's my side or the other side, there's so much wrong on both sides, the middle, the edges. And I know that a society like ours can't work if everybody checks out. But I've paid attention for decades. I'm 62, and I'm just getting to the point where it's like, I don't know. I still care. I follow it. I know what's going on in the world. Always. I just choose not to make it the focus of my attention anymore. I like knowing what's happening, but I've mentioned this before. My father-in-law passed away a few years ago. Fantastic dude. He's married to my wife's stepmom. My parents are both still alive, living in Canada. They are on complete opposite sides of the political spectrum. I'm not going to say who watches what, but one of them watches a channel on this side, and the others watch the channel on this side. And anytime any of that stuff came up, it was just an angry feeling and not a comfortable feeling. Even when I'm talking to my parents, and I have similar views to them. I don't think the same as them, but they're my parents. I love them, or I respect them, but we start going down those paths, and it always leads to just a little bit of not the fun in life that I'm looking for, that I want. So I've started concentrating much more on my family and my friends, my job, getting another something else going so I don't have to travel so much, and trying to kind of put my life back to the 70s and 80s. Now, I know I'm a bit of a hypocrite, because here I am on YouTube. I have a TikTok channel. I have Facebook. Excuse me. And I enjoy all that. But I also am trying to also take a step back a little bit. I've never been one that just sits and scrolls forever on anything. Back when it was MySpace, I just, it was years before I got on Facebook. It was years before I got on TikTok. And I dig this. I really enjoy this. But part of my life, I want to go back. In fact, I was just looking at houses because we're talking about maybe downsizing our house. We don't need this big house anymore. And frankly, I want to move out of the city. We don't live in a big city, but the town we moved to 21 years ago has like tripled in size. I mean, it went from, I don't know, 25,000 people to probably closer to 80. And so I just want to simplify life. And it feels like, now maybe if you were 62 in 1978, you didn't feel this way. But it feels like it was just simpler time. And like I said, maybe every generation thinks that. It was simpler back then. Like people there, if you're watching and you're 25, you're going to say the same thing. I already said that. But I think there's something to be said for just simplifying life, concentrating on the things that really matter. And I like when I said I'm checking out, that's not a good thing. We have to have some interest in that to keep everything going and lasting. We're coming up on 250 years this July. It's an impressive feat. It's the longest running democracy in history. I mean, technically we're a democratic republic, but you know what I mean. And it's an amazing feat. And I love living here, and I'm proud to live here, and I'm proud to be an American. I've said it before, if you're a hater, I feel bad for you. I was listening to some podcast yesterday, and this was a young woman, probably 21, 22 years old, college student, and I won't get into the details I won't get into the details, but she absolutely hates her country. She's an American, born here, raised here, and just thinks we're the worst place in the world. And I'm like, boy, you need to go see the world a little bit and go see what's out there, because you have no idea. We're pampered and we're blessed to live where we live, and we get to be able to say stuff like that. That's all I'll say about it. The point of this was kind of, do any of you feel that way? I know on my TikTok channel, I do a lot of lip syncing and sometimes singing, and it's all, not all, but mostly mid 70s to mid 80s music. And I get people constantly telling me on there, I would go back in a heartbeat. I miss those times so much. And I do too. The question of going back, I mean, it's kind of irrelevant, because it's just not possible. But if you could, would you? I probably would. I would miss some of this technology and stuff, but I think we were a happier people overall before all the technology. But it brings a lot of blessings to our lives too. So it's kind of it's a tough one. Anyway, let me know what you think. I want to go deeper into the stories and stuff about the 70s and the 80s. Roller skating, cruising, dances, summer vacations, swimming, riding. I was big time into mountain biking for a while. So I'll get into some of that, but anyway, like I said, I know I'm rambling. It's what I do, and I appreciate, if you're still here, thank you. I'm gonna wind it down now, because now I've gotten my point out. Let me know what you think. I really do enjoy reading the comments, even the really long ones. I read them, and I try to get back to everybody. So unless it's mean or negative, then I'm not going to get back to you. I'm going to ignore it. But that's cool. You're free to do it. Hope you have a beautiful Monday night. Lose track all the time. I am past the halfway point now of this trip. I've been out 2 weeks. I'm going to go home in probably 12 or 13 days. And then we're going on a camping trip with a bunch of friends, and I can't wait. We're going to go ride the ATVs, go see the beauty of this mountains and the trees and the rivers and the lakes and campfires and drinking beer and bullshitting. Oh, so I just love it. I love it so much. So I hope you all get to do stuff like that, whatever it is you dig. Have a great night. And tack för denna gång, men snackas igen snart. Peace. Love.